Hello and welcome to Newsnine's Deccan Vahini and Jisha Surya. The Kerala government has recently appointed renowned artist Mallika Sarabhai as the Chancellor of Kerala Kalamandalam, the deemed to be university for art and culture. So this move came at a time when there is an ongoing tussle between the LDF government and Kerala governor, who is the de facto Chancellor of universities in Kerala. As we all know, Mallika Sarabhai is someone who could not fit into one particular role. She's a classical dancer, theatre artist, activist, and a lot more. She's also a staunch critic of Sangh Parivar. Mallika Sarabhai has joined Newsnine's Deccan Vahini today for a brief conversation. Hello, ma'am. Congratulations for your new role.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, first of all, my first question is, have you been to Kerala Kalamandalam before? And how do you view this premium session?
I've been many times as a young girl and several times as a professional dancer. Whenever Amma used to go to Kerala, she would take me along with her. I haven't been in about 20 years now. I have always known the Kalamandalam as an institution of great prestige. I have known a lot of Kalamandalam dancers, Shri Ramankutti Nair and Gopi, and people have all either worked at Darpana or with us on tours and so on. I've also been hearing that the institution is far from at its peak at the moment, that there is a lot of politicization, a lot of nepotism. I don't know how much of that to believe, but I am keen to understand what is going on.
Right. So you're already at the helm of the Darpana Academy for several decades, and you are experienced in running cultural institutions. So I would like to know, what are your major focus when you take up the post of the Chancellor of Kerala Kalamandalam?
I think Kerala Kalamandalam deserves to be a unique place of learning, research, performance, integration of various arts and experimentation. And I think we artists need to reinvent ourselves every few years, especially with the very fast changing times in which we live. Darpana remains a top arts institution because we are constantly reinventing ourselves, looking at the audiences that are changing, trying to see how we can harness those audiences' attentions. And I think any institution, to survive and not become a museum piece, needs to do that.
Right. So you may be aware of the current political controversy in India, with especially there's a bill coming up, which is currently under the consideration of Kerala Assembly, which proposes to replace the governor as the chancellor, governor with eminent personalities in respective field as chancellor of universities. Your appointment was one of the first major step in this regard. But there are criticism against this bill and this move. One major criticism is that when government appoints someone as the chancellor, it will affect the autonomy of the institution. And another criticism is that when the governor was holding the post of chancellor, there is no additional financial liability. But when the government appoints several persons as chancellor, there is additional liability in terms of the salary, perks, and the staff appointment related to things. So what are your views, especially regarding the autonomy of institutions? What are your views?
I don't think politics and institutions of education and research should ever be linked, because that is why most of our institutions remain mediocre. And except for perhaps one IIT and IIM Ahmedabad and the Indian Institute of Science, nothing figures on the global scale or even in the first 200. I think political interference is something that you have to just take for granted. It is going to happen one way or the other. You're talking of liabilities. What greater liability can there be in comparison to the destruction of an institution? What they pay a chancellor, what they pay the chancellor's staff is so minuscule compared to the terrible misadventures that institutions are going through because of political interference and people who don't know anything about it being put in charge of institutions. At least in my case, as you say, I have run Darpana for 43 years. I have been a professional dancer, choreographer, educator. So at least I know where I'm coming from. If you put me in charge of an IIT, I would say, I'm going to goof it up, don't even begin. So I think it is the correct move to keep people of a background that relates to the institution.
Okay. So the governor currently said that his major allegations against the Kerala government is that government is violating UGC norms. But the government say that the governor's move is part of the larger agenda to saffronize universities in the country. So, as a person, a keen political observer of things happening in the country, how do you view this?
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely correct assumption. And so many people have been put to destroy institution where liberal thinking used to be at the forefront, because these are now seen with suspicion. In today's India, on the one hand, we talk of Hindutva, and yet we are going against every principle of Hinduism, which says debate is necessary, questions are necessary. Today, debates are being completely squashed, questions are being completely squashed. So I don't disagree with that at all. Of course, there is a huge process of saffronization of the academic and research institutions going on.
Coming to your work, I understand that you are super busy doing this one wonderful project, Conference of Birds, right now at Ahmedabad. Could you tell us something about your new project?
In Darpana, we have always felt that the arts are an exceptional language of getting through people's closed minds, prejudices, the walls that we build up. So starting with Amma in the 60s and following my own stepping into creative work after I finished with the Mahabharata, we have tried to make things that are relevant and draw attention to subjects that people do not really want to talk about. And for instance, in 2006-07, I took a book of Harsh Mandar's called Ansuni, Unheard Voices, which had case studies of 20 people he had met through his IAS officer career, of people fighting for rights, fighting for justice. And listening to the conversation of my children's friends, I began to realize that the so-called rich and educated had no clue about the real India. So from Harsh's book, I created a piece called Ansuni, which was performed both in English and Hindi. And we went to 120 elite schools and colleges in order for children who will become the leaders of tomorrow to understand the ground realities of the terrible exploitation and injustice in this country. And we then went into discussions immediately after the show. We went into asking people to volunteer for the poor and the marginalized. And by the end of it, I had 7,000 volunteers who were either working with NGOs in their own cities or working with people around them. For instance, if somebody was interested in sports, they would go into a slum and teach the kids how to play sport. There was somebody who would explain basic hygiene to the people working in their own house, things like that. And there were at least, I think, 10 schools which started parallel Anskuni schools, which are still going on. That's the kind of work we do. Now, we are in a situation of such polarization today that to even ask people to think about a different script for life, a script that doesn't go the capitalist way of earn more money and you will be happy, and buy this brand of car and you will be happy, to think of, especially post-COVID, when there is so much mental disorder going on even in young children. The Conference of the Birds is a 12th century book written by the guru of Rumi. And through the parable of the birds, it takes us through a discovery of self-discovery, finding out by going inside what it is that we really want, what it is that life is about. And each of the birds is a particular characteristic trait which the audience recognizes in somebody they know. The entire production is directed and visualized by my artistic director, Yadavan Chandran, who perhaps you know is the son of TV Chandran and has been a colleague of mine for close to 22 years. He has done an incredible job. We have been having amazing performances. Tonight and tomorrow night are the last two of the December run, and then we hope to have it run again in January. And we are trying to get in mixed audiences, not only people who can afford tickets, but there are people who are sponsoring those who cannot afford tickets to come in. And while the production is in English and Hindi, for those who don't speak any English, We have done an audio introduction to each of the stories within the thing. And I think it's great fun and very thought-provoking.
So when are you planning to join the Kerala Kalamandalam? And
I have no idea. After
Okay.
being told that I had been put in that post, I'm still waiting to hear from the Kerala government what the expectation is of my role. I then want to really come and spend perhaps a week talking to people. I need to understand who the stakeholders are, what the issues are. I want to talk to people who used to be in Kalamandalam. And a lot of people have been reaching out to me, including the Vallatol family, including Ramankutti Nayar's son, including several stalwarts of Kalamandalam. And I will require the help of every Malayali who wants Kerala Kalamandalam to succeed, because I don't know. I have to learn.
Right.
I must learn, and I must take all stakeholders together and forward.
I understand that this is a 5-year term. The post of Chancellor is a 5-year term. So do you have any plans to move into Kerala? Especially Kerala can always consider you as our daughter.
I can't move. I have Darpana and I have my own professional career, but I will be spending much more time there.
How is your connection with Kerala? Your mother is from Kerala. How is your connection?
I consider myself a Kerala Kutti, not a Gujarati.
Okay.
I always have.
Okay.
And Kerala has always shown me tremendous love. I have done a lot of work in Kerala. About 10 years ago with the Kerala Women's Association, we did a project which took me to 40,000 young women across Kerala, talking about the terrible disempowerment that women in Kerala face. For all the education that you have, I find women in Kerala extremely frightened, afraid, tentative, not taking leadership positions, very worried about what people will say. And that breaks my heart, because I come from a very matrilineal family. I come from a family of very strong women on both sides. And with your education, that is where I would like you to be. I would like you to be freed of these fears. And that was what the project was with the Kerala State Women's Development Corporation. And I hope that the stories I've been hearing about Kalamandalam, that certain castes can't come in and women can't do this and so on, that is something I have to change, because it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong.
Especially in its 92-year history, you're the first woman to take the post of the Chancellor and the head of this institution. Right.
So, more power to all of us.
Right. One last question. I know, especially I can't ask because this is the time as we have heard the Gujarat election results. As a person who's living there, how do you view this election results?
You know what I think of the BJP. I think it's public knowledge what I think of their governance. The result for me is a disaster, but I'm not surprised. I think, at least in Gujarat, but I think in many parts of the country, not Kerala certainly, but in many parts of the country, people see local, state level misgovernance as being something that the center is not responsible for. And that is a disconnect that leads to the kind of result we've had. Because in Gujarat, the economic distress is so high, the farmers' distress is so high, that entire families are committing suicide, people are going on strike, and yet they vote like this. So I think there is a disconnect that is misleading the public.
Thank you for joining Newsnet's Deccan Vahini, ma'am. Looking forward to see you in Kerala soon. Thank you.